If you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you should be fired up from what you saw last night in preseason week 2. We're going to break that down and much, much more here on All About the Game. Steelers, Bills, preseason week 2. What an exciting matchup. Welcome back to Mike Drub Sports. I'm your host, Jason, and we're here on the show all about the game. I appreciate you for stopping through. Last night we put out a quick recap of the game, a quick 10-minute video of our recap of our quick thoughts on the game. However, this morning we're going to go ahead and break down the game a little bit more in depth and talk about some of the highs, some of the lows, some of the position battles, just breaking down this team a little bit more as we move into the 2023 season and what we should be excited for and where some of the holes may still be, where some of the bright spots are. So let's break down into that offense first and dive right into that. Again, I appreciate you guys stopping through. So let's get right into it. Today, I wanted to talk about that offense in particular because I thought they came out firing. I thought they came out hot. You had Jalen Warren with that big 62-yard touchdown pass. You had Kenny Pickett fire down the seam into double coverage. Pat Freiermuth looking like a real veteran player with a laser throw. That was a big-time veteran throw. I don't know if people really realize that when they look at it, but that was something that looked like a veteran move. Standing in that pocket, the line kept him super clean, no pressure, and Kenny just stepped into that throw, threw a laser, hit Freiermuth on that back shoulder, which was really nice. And Freiermuth was able to adjust and catch that football and dive right into the end zone for a score against two quality top defensive backs for the Buffalo Bills. And I thought that was a very important throw for Kenny moving into this season because he needs throws like that as confidence builders, and this offense needs throws like that to build their confidence also. But let's talk about how that developed, that first touchdown, that 62-yard run by Jalen Warren. And that was something set up very, very, very neatly by Matt Canada. And the scheme worked pretty damn well. The Steelers sent a player in motion away from the run. They ran away from the motion. And the Steelers' offensive line was able to seal inside, which was the very most important point right there, right off the bat. They were able to seal inside. Then you had Deontay Johnson out there at the wide receiver position, throw a hell of a block and block his player toward the sideline, which was textbook because that opened up a hole that a tractor trailer could drive through. And Jalen Warren was able to do the rest with his speed, his athleticism, his lowness to the ground, his ability to just shrug people off. He was solid on that run. As you've seen, nobody was going to bring him down once he was able to get to that second level and apply that burst of speed. He was just, you knew it was a touchdown. The way he was running with authority there was something really special, and the Steeler fans should be super excited about that because now if we can get Najee Harris to start going here, in which I think he will, I just think the Steelers are overly cautious managing Najee after the couple years that he's had being used so heavily. I think the Steelers are just being super cautious, giving him a couple carries in the preseason games here, but they're not overusing him. And I think Najee will, by week 2 or 3, start to get the ball rolling. But I think Jalen Warren is in that mid-season form already, and he's ready to go. But you've seen the line given a lot of protection on the next touchdown, which was Kenny Pickett to Pat Freiermuth. The line giving him a lot of protection, which I love. Dan Moore seems to be solidified at that left tackle spot. Broderick Jones, I thought, played pretty decent throughout the game. He let up a big sack at one point, but all in all, his overall performance, I think, was pretty solid. And I think throughout the season, you're going to see Broderick Jones. I don't think he's going to sit the bench the whole year, but I think he's going to be allowed to learn a little bit. So let's also talk a little bit about Calvin Austin. Contribute a great deal on special teams, but I thought he did contribute on the offensive side of the ball too, because the defense had to respect his speed. And we've talked about that already in other videos. The defense had to protect against his speed because they know he can blow the top off. So I think that loosened things up down underneath a little bit and allowed for the Pittsburgh Steelers to work the ball to that short to intermediate type throws. And let's talk also about Mitchell Trubisky. I thought he came in and played shitty at first, but then once he got comfortable, I thought he was able to start doing some things, start moving the football. and now he was with a little bit lesser players. But however, I think he did fairly well. I feel like he was solid, and for a backup number two, I think that's just what you're looking for. Mason Rudolph, I don't really know what to take about his performance last night. I think it was average at best. I don't think it was amazing. He didn't have any type of big throws that he did in Tampa or anything like that. So I thought Mason was kind of just pedestrian last night. But Kenny, Mitch, I thought they looked apart. I thought they did what they had to do last night. I thought Mitch was able to get a lot of quality snaps under his belt, getting ready for the 2023 season. So as we move forward, I had a lot of notes from last night. And one big thing that I want to talk about here, and I think it's a very important topic, and I don't think a lot of people may be talking about it because it wasn't a flashy play, it wasn't big play, it wasn't a scoring play, but or plays rather. Darnell Washington, guys. Darnell Washington, 2 times down at the goal line, drew an offensive pass interference call. I don't know if people realize how important that's going to be leading into the season and going through this season. If Darnell's able to remain healthy and the Steelers are able to utilize him in the way that he should be, what a asset that guy's going to be. He was able to draw those 2 pass interference calls, the first one being double covered. The second one, he's out on an island by himself and he draws another pass interference call right in a row. Excuse me. That is so important because he's almost so hard to cover that these defenders have to interfere. They have to throw something in there and do something sketch to be able to guard him. And that is going to be huge for the Steelers moving forward because he is going to be so reliable, and Kenny's going to have such confidence going to him down in those types of situations close to the goal line. Uh, you know, 10 and out, inside that tight part of the red zone. And I think the Steelers really hit a home run with him. And he is super hard to cover. And I think if you don't interfere, you can't guard him. And that's just the way it boils down. He's just too big. He's just so large that the defensive backs can't get around him, can't really, do what they do. So I think that was a very important thing, a very important couple plays there that we needed to pay attention to. And I also seen Zach Gentry get a nice catch, I think, from Mitchell Trubisky. Just so many good things coming out of that tight end room. You had Connor Hayward catching a touchdown pass, and how he's emerging as a guy that when you need something, you go to Connor. He's gonna get you that short touchdown or that big first down. He's very reliable, and he's starting to show that, and his reputation's starting to build toward that. And I think that's very important for the Steelers also in this offensive scheme. Now, what is going to be the biggest thing here? And that is going to be Matt Canada. He's the biggest X factor in this whole situation for me, because if he doesn't utilize his personnel that the Steelers have afforded him correctly and allow them to play to their strengths and really just allow this offense to develop organically, I think that the Steelers will be in trouble. And I don't think that the offense will grow like it needs to grow because we're going to be playing against some more complex schemes. Things get harder and harder and harder as we move through the season. So Matt Canada has to take the training wheels off of Kenny Pickett, off of the rest of this offense, and allow them to shine and do the things that they do well and allow these weapons to work. I mean, for God's sakes, you have George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, Connor Hayward, Calvin Austin III, Allen Robinson. The list goes on and on and on. And then you have big battles there for the 5th, 6th wide receiver spot. Boykin, Gunner. I thought Gunner played with great energy, high motor, flying around, trying to make plays. You could tell he was a guy that felt like his spot wasn't guaranteed on this football team. And I don't think it is, but he was really, really playing hard, and you could see that effort. You could see that he really was giving maximum effort to try to make this 53-man roster and get on this squad. So many bright spots, though, on that offense. I love Pat Freiermuth. I like the offensive line all in all. I felt like the Steelers' first-team offensive line was able to do things when they had to do them. I thought they had a couple breakdowns to where it wasn't the best, but they didn't look super sloppy. They didn't look super overwhelmed by that Buffalo Bills defense. And that's their first team defense, folks. Like it or not, people can say, yeah, it was the preseason, but that was good on good, first on first. It is what it is. So all in all, I think that Pittsburgh Steelers offense came out of that game flying high, lots of confidence, looking good, and I'm really pleased with the progression so far. And I think that was the last of what we'll see from them in this preseason. You never know; they might get a series in the preseason game 3, but I'm highly doubting it. I think that was it for the first team offense, and I think preseason game 3 will be all backups all the time in that matchup. So, and that will be Friday, I think, versus the Atlanta Falcons, if my memory serves me correct. So, all in all, great offensive performance. I really enjoyed watching that offense last night. But I want to break down into this defense. And I really broke down the first half totally because that's when most of the first teamers were playing on both sides of the ball. So I went ahead and really detailed down um, my notes whenever I was doing the first half. The second half, I kind of just went through and just wrote down highlights and things of that nature. But the defense on that first drive, Levi Wallace had a nice tackle for a loss. KZ assisted on that tackle. I felt like the Pittsburgh Steelers defense was rallying to the football early and really attacking the ball carrier and really trying to put pressure on Josh Allen. There was nice pressure there on third down. They did force a punt on that drive, but I thought that there was a couple plays that just weren't amazing for the Steelers defense. But all in all, it was a very solid performance in that first drive. They forced the punt, and that's when Calvin Austin ripped off a 54-yard punt return, which was an amazing thing. And we're going to talk about that special teams group here at the end. But that was, setting up for that second touchdown. That was amazing. And that was so pivotal for the Steelers defense because they held that unit, kept them down low, kept them down near the goal line area, kept them down deep in their own end, and the Steelers defense was able to get off the field with that punt, and Calvin Austin rewarded the defense and ripped off a nice punt return. And the blocking was amazing. Like I said, we'll talk about those special teams groups here a little bit later. The second drive, we had a 3rd and 29, forced another punt. Landon Roberts, he was wearing that green dot last night for the defense. And I got to say, I like the way he played ball. I thought he was moving around everywhere. I thought all in all, his performance was pretty solid. Allen avoids a sack, which should have been a sack in that drive. TJ Watt was triple teamed on one play where I thought he got held pretty blatantly, but they kind of let that slide. Peterson in the second drive, Patrick Peterson, he let up a pass that was right in front of him during some man coverage. I believe they were in some man coverage there, so I didn't like that play. I thought maybe he could have given a little bit more effort on that, but I'm not exactly sure of what kind of defensive setup they were in that play to where I may be wrong. He may have been just playing like a cloud somehow, just a little bit of zone there to where he wasn't up pressed on that man. That man might not have beat him so bad, as bad as I thought he did. But it was a pretty easy catch and pass for Josh Allen and the receiver. Highsmith, he was playing the run well in that second drive also, which I really liked. Highsmith was all over the field last night, got a sack, really heavily pursuing Josh Allen. The cornerbacks, I don't think we're playing the greatest man coverage at times during that second drive, but like I said, all in all, we don't know exactly what defense they were in, but it didn't look as spectacular. But all in all, the Steelers were able to force that punt in a second drive. And another thing that I was noticing a great deal was those penalties. And those penalties weren't a fluke. Those all weren't the Buffalo Bills just being undisciplined. That wasn't the case. What was happening, guys, in that game was the Pittsburgh Steelers pass rush was getting so much pressure and getting off the ball so quickly, and they were able to have so many fresh legs coming at Josh Allen all the time that was making those penalties happen, those false starts, those holds. that was a direct correlation with that pass rush. And that is going to be something special to watch this season because I think Nick Herbig is taking some big steps. He had a couple forced fumbles. I mean, the kid is always there when you need him, it seems like. He's developing into one of those types of players like, hey, man, get Nick in there. He'll get you something, he'll do something for you. So I really love the way that was all unfolding for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The third drive for the Buffalo Bills, which here's another staggering statistic. I don't think the Bills really had many yards in those first three drives. I think the Steelers really smothered them. That first team defense just smothered the Buffalo Bills and created a lot of problems for them. But the third drive did end in a punt. Um, more what was I talking about here? I wanted to read my notes. Oh, a 3rd and 7 play, sacked by Highsmith on an exciting chase down there. Highsmith did force him out of the pocket. Allen did scramble and run. However, Highsmith never quit on that play and was able to come in and get that sack eventually. And that's the type of play you want to see. Guys not giving up on a play. So these guys like Lamar Jackson, like a Josh Allen, these guys, Patrick Mahomes, that scramble around and make things happen. You like to see your defense staying on task and stay pursuing that quarterback and not giving up on a play because that will prove to pay big dividends for them. Because these guys, when they're in trouble, they're rolling out and you got to chase them down and you got to apply pressure to box them in and take some things out of their hands there a little bit. But the back end got to hold up too. So that's where those corners and those safeties come into play also. But I really like that play by Alex Highsmith. Joey Porter Jr., he seemed to play well. I know he gave up in his first pass against him, just a little quick slant, but Joey Porter was right there. It wasn't a big gainer. It was just a few yards. He was able to make the tackle quickly. He did get blown up by one of the offensive linemen that I seen there at the end. However, he was able to just still make that play and bounce right back up and be solid for the rest of the game. He did get his first interception of his young career, gave the football to his father. That was pretty cool. Just several things, man. And then you had in the fourth drive an interception after the Bills were able with Matt Barkley to drive down the field. You had Cole Holcomb, who had gotten beat prior in that series to where it moved the Bills down close. However, Holcomb was able to deflect the pass, and Elijah Riley was able to pick that football off. And those are the types of splash plays that you want to see, always attacking the football. And I preach that all the time. You got to attack the football and good things will happen. Make it bounce in weird ways. Things will happen. Things will fall your way. And I really like that. Holcomb was playing big against the run, I thought, there for a while. I didn't like his pass coverage. I did write down a quick note, bad coverage by 17 and 41 on a play. That was Elijah Riley. He had a horrible coverage on one of the one-on-one reps that he had. I thought he had some horrible coverage there. But all in all, I felt like he played solid. I don't think he was horrible, but he did have a couple plays that I really didn't like. And then on that fifth series of the first half, you had Joey Porter Jr. getting that INT, and that was big, and that was real, real big. And I love the way that went down. And all in all, in the first half, I thought the Steelers defense was able to really just smother that Buffalo Bills team and keep them under wraps. And they're usually a high flying, heavy scoring type team. And I felt the Steelers were able to really control that and control that in a big way. And I really enjoyed watching that. Let's talk about the second half notes. Chandon Sullivan starting out with an INT right off the bat there to start the second half. I thought Buffalo continued to make those penalties and those fouls. And like I said, that was a direct reflection from the depth chart the whole way down, causing heavy pass rush on the Buffalo Bills quarterbacks, and it was creating havoc for those guys. Another field goal by the Boz. I thought Boswell played well. The Bills' Doyle goes down with another leg injury after battling back from an ACL surgery last year. I thought that was horrible to watch. That guy worked his ass off to get back to where he needed to be. And yet we see him down with another significant leg injury. It was cool to see DeMar Hamlin out there playing, finally back, flying around, hitting, doing all that stuff. That's a pretty amazing story. I felt like at times the Steelers weren't playing the run well in the second half. That was one of my notes. Herbig had another big forced fumble, going and rushing and getting that first step, really beating that tackle and able to put his hand in there and cause some disruption. I love that. Um, Another thing, Broderick Jones, he gave up a third quarter sack, which I thought was pretty bad. It looked bad. It looked really bad. Boswell added another field goal. I felt like the kick coverage was pretty good all night, and that's where we're going to get into some of that with the special teams. I seen Mark Robinson on the defensive side in the second half have a monster hit and really stamp himself there, stamp his position on this football team. I think Mark Robinson has the potential to be a really good football player. I love the way he played. Like I said, Gunner was fighting hard for a roster spot. The start of the fourth quarter, we had a bad snap there by Kendrick Green. I think he's really starting to slip. His hands are starting to slip off of a roster spot, and I think Kendrick Green is getting to be in trouble. I know they used him a little bit at fullback, but I just don't see the value in Kendrick. He makes a mistake at least once a game, and they're usually costly mistakes, and I really don't like that. The Steelers did end up giving up a score there at the end of the game, bringing it to like 27-15, but the game wasn't indicative of that score. The game was truly dominated by the Pittsburgh Steelers totally, and that score doesn't really show that. But it is preseason football, so you get those late garbage time touchdowns, as you do in the regular season too sometimes. But let's talk about those special teams before we wrap up. And I just wanted to say, I think Presley Harvin, as I said last night in our post-game recap, I felt like Presley Harvin had his best game as a Steeler. He didn't have any big, huge, booming punts, but he was able to position his punts where they had to be. And I felt like the punt coverage helped him out a great deal by hustling down the field, getting there, down in the football quick, or making a tackle quickly. But Harvin, he played his best game. Every punt was quality, everyone. And I feel like Harvin finally is realizing that his days are numbered if he doesn't get his act together. And I think the Steelers know that also. Well, and I think the Steelers may have told him that also. So Presley Harvin had his best game as a Pittsburgh Steeler, if you ask me. The way he was punting in that game, it was all perfect punts, excellent punts. And you never had to say, like, damn, man, Harvin shanked one. Damn, there's Harvin acting like he always does, jacking shit up. The field position game is so important in the NFL, and Harvin contributed a great deal last night to keeping those Bills back up against their goal line area, keeping them deep in their own end all night, and that was big for the Steelers. Boswell looked good, hitting all his field goals, all his extra points. The kickoff coverage unit, amazing, down, swarming to the football every time, flying around. I think some guys that are going to be able to make the team just on special teams. So we're going to break that tape down a little bit more and see who those special teamers could be, who could just make this team off of special teams. So again, we had the Calvin Austin III showing his nice punt return, showing his nice speed. That was a big bright spot. The blocking on the punt return was perfect. Everything just seemed to go well for Danny Smith's units last night. And you can't ask for much more because I feel like they've had a rough couple seasons here. Especially last year, I felt was really rough in terms of special teams at times for Danny Smith. And I think he's got this group hungry. It's a young group of special teamers, and I think they really contributed a great deal and really contributed to the amount of points the Steelers were able to put on the board. It's just you have to break it down and see it, and these special teams provide a great value in what they do, and the Steelers should be thankful for what they got, and they need to stay working at that position and stay on the grind there. And I think Mike Tomlin really emphasized that in his post-game comments also. So let's just wrap this up a little bit. Got a little long-winded on the game, breaking down the game a little bit. But like I said, guys, we're not like these big box media companies to where we're trying to force certain things down your throat. We're just breaking it down as a fan would see it, as somebody you and I looking at it, just seeing who does well, who doesn't do well, blah blah blah. we're not trying to force all these like crazy things down your throat. And I know a lot of these big box media people do that, and we're not going to do that here. We're just going to talk about it as a fan, looking through a fan's eyes, and that's how we're going to do things. So, any comments you have about the game, put them in there. I'll answer them. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep on watching Mike Drop Sports.